It's hot. According to my phone, it is 23 degrees right now and due to get up to 27 later. So when your car doesn't have air conditioning and it's this hot, this happens. Because Daves die in hot cars. If you remember at the end of the last video on the Astra, we discovered that there was a leak in the aircon condenser just through there. When we tried to top up the aircon system with some top-up bottles, we could just hear it squirting out from the aircon condenser. That and there is the aircon radiator. I can hear all my gas from my bottle being released into the air. And to remedy that, I have this. That's right, I bought myself a brand new aircon condenser. And today we're going to replace that. I have myself a 4-hour window of time all to myself. No children, no work, no nothing. So in that window we need to get this done. We need to also change the oil as that is due every summer. And I also want to address this. This lower bit of trim on the bumper just will not clip into place. So you push it back in like that, but it just pops out as you're driving. I'm going to have the bumper off and changing the aircon condenser, and I'll be able to see behind that bit of grille and hopefully secure it in a more permanent fashion. We're working outside again today because the M3, although we said an emotional goodbye to it in the last video on the M3, it is still here. Let's get the Astra turned around so we can jack it up on the hard service and get going, because time is ticking. There's the timer. 4-hour timer has started. We've already lost 5 minutes chatting about this thing, so come on, let's get a move on. First thing to do to get the bumper off is to take this grill off, which has got these little plastic push rivets. So the little circle in the middle you have to push through into the car and probably lose that bit. Sometimes you can catch them, sometimes you can't. So this first one you can actually feel the bottom of it, so you can catch it. Nice and simple. 2 out of 2. So this one you can't really get to, so I'm just going to push that through. Oh, came out the bottom. That was lucky. 3 out of 3. 4 out of 4. Nice. Then it's a case of just lifting the whole thing up. There's clips that go down into the bumper all the way along. However, do be careful because mine is broken. It's been like that since I had it. I guess somebody was a little bit heavy-handed with it in the past. It's been a long time since I've had a bumper off one of these Astras, so I'm sort of feeling my way as I go. But there are going to be a screw inside the wheel arch there. Looks like there should be something at the bottom there, but that's missing. Then there'll be some bits underneath. So again, some plasticky push rivet types, 3 along there, and that should sort that out. But we've actually got holes across the front with nothing in them, so you shouldn't need to even undo those ones at the back. Something to sort out when it goes back on. Check this out, I'm carrying roadkill in the car. Look at that. Oh, that's so weird. So as you take the bumper off, you've got the outside air temperature sensor which goes into the grille and you've also got the fog lights, which I probably should have unplugged first, but I didn't, so when the bumper was hanging it was just easier to take the bulbs out, which is just a slight twist. Same on that side, and we can already see that this aircon condenser is hanging. So basically we've got a couple of E-Torx bolts either side there, and we've got the fan, which is 10mm up there. On the bottom it should just slot into the groove on the bottom of the aircon rad, and then just the wiring to navigate around. We've also got the aircon pipes to undo. There's a plug there which I can take off. I guess that's some kind of sensor to see if the system has gas in it, and another aircon pipe connection up there. So hopefully quite straightforward. First thing I'm going to tackle is those 10mm to get the fan away from the condenser. As I've said a few times in my videos, this isn't necessarily a how-to perfect textbook guide to performing this procedure. It's just how I'm doing it. You're probably more intelligent than me, but maybe watching me you can think, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way. And that's great, you can go and do it your own way, so please don't see me. And on that note, I should point out for this particular video that the gas used for an aircon system is particularly harmful to the environment. My gas has already gone because of the hole in the condenser, nothing I can do about that now. But if your system was full and you're working on the aircon, you should get the gas professionally evacuated from the system before you start work. Okay, so these 10mm are out, so I'm hoping this can just kind of hang. What's that? Might just be able to get the aircon condenser out past the fan there. Next I'm going to undo the connections to the piping and then into the 4 E-Torx bolts to either side. That's all the bolts undone, so now the aircon condenser is loose, but the last thing I need to do, which I probably should have done first, is disconnect the cable where it attaches. It's just that one to the broken part of the condenser. So potentially it's easier just to break the condenser at this point, but I am going to have to clip these into a new one, so I will try and get them out. Now I've done that, the condenser seems to be wanting to drop out the bottom. Just push that under tray back and wiggle it out. Easy. Quick time check. Good time, good time. Okay, now we're at the halfway point with the aircon rad and I'm feeling a bit more confident that I can get it done in my 4-hour window. Let's get the oil draining so we can give it its summer service. I have serviced the car on YouTube before, so I'm going to put a link in the top right corner now, and I'm not going to go into it in massive detail. I am actually only doing the oil and filter anyway, whereas last year we did spark plugs and I think we did air filter and pollen filter as well. Last year as well we did clean all this up, and it is weeping yet again. I've had a couple of goes at changing the cam cover gasket on this one, but a bit like the issues I had on the E90 BMW, I just seem to not be able to do cam cover gaskets for some reason, or maybe it's something else that's leaking. Anyway, it's not too bad, so I'm just going to live with that for now. Being under the car, actually the oil is dripping all the way down to the bottom of the gearbox, so that probably is something that's going to need to be addressed sooner rather than later. But not today. But I will just give it a quick clean whilst I'm here with the brake cleaner. looking good. Shout out to this thing, by the way. All the nonsense on the BMW with the oil level sensor. Nothing wrong with an old-fashioned dipstick. Take note, manufacturers. I'm sure you can tell I'm baking out here. So, time for a quick drinks break, and the camera battery is on 5%, so we'll swap the battery. And we're back again. Let's do a quick time check. 1.5 hours gone, 2.5 to go. Still on track. We've still got to have a look at this grill and get a new aircon rad on, which we will do next. Back in the same way we came out. Then you can slide the fan back onto the threads at the top. Right, let's get the bolts in on the sides to secure this thing. What I learned from me tip is that do the driver's side bolts first, because you can see those are fixed holes, whereas on the other side they aren't a hole, so there is room to slide and adjust there. So do the fixed ones first. If you tighten those up, you're not going to have the holes lining up where they need to, probably. Next we're going to do the two 10mm for the fan. And the wiring at the bottom, just the clip, and that was the only one. And then we'll do the plumbing. So the new one comes with a little cover, which isn't that size. So often these will just come with a little plastic cover. Ooh, what's that? This is gas. And there it goes. So the top one's also got a cover in. Got a 14mm nut to undo to release that. Tighten that up, but you can see here there's a bit of a gap on the side where this seal is, so that's not going to be any good. Just loosen it off, maybe put a bit of grease around the seal and try again. As you saw there, I just had to get some grips on it to squeeze those two bits together as I tightened it up, and now we've got a nice tight fit. We do have two pipes here and here that are touching each other, which probably isn't ideal actually. I don't know that you can see, but I think there is the smallest gap maybe. So there we go. That bit of levering has given it a bit of daylight, and actually it was just that screw. Could have loosened off and then just shift the bracket around slightly to the bottom one. We're plumbed. Let's put some nice caps back on there off the old one. So, like a silly old man as I am, I've gone to the old one to get the old cap off it, and duh, it's the sensor, so we need to get the sensor off this one. This is why don't throw things away. Before we do that, quick time check, because we lost a bit of time there. We have 1 hour and 50 minutes left. Still doing okay, hang in there guys. Just leave this up and go back in with the old pressure sensor. This top one is just a cap. That is the aircon all plumbed in, plugged in theory. So the next step will be to put the gas in it, but first, as we're doing 3 jobs this afternoon, we've got the oil from doing the filter change, so let's get that in an empty bottle, ready to be disposed of responsibly. And now I'm going to see what I can do about this grill on the bumper to get it to stay in place. So you can see at the back of the grill we've got these clips that are meant to hold it in place. So is it the case that it just hasn't been pushed in far enough at the bottom to click in, or is it a case that we need to secure by way of screw or similar at the bottom? Let's give it a bit of a hit to see if it clicks into place first. And yes, that seemed pretty secure now. I think that was all it ever needed. I've been putting up with it popping out for years. My next step was to drill a little hole through that tab and just put a bit of wire or something for it, but I didn't think that was going to be necessary. Back on with the bumper. Another time check. Still got an hour and 35 to go. Still on course. There's a little hole here, and that is where the outside temperature sensor goes. Just clips in like that. Sometimes when you get an F in the display inside where the temperature reading should be, all it is just replacing that. Dead easy. There's a bit of Vauxhall knowledge for you. Just doing the fog lights. If you know how to change a bulb, then I don't need to show you this one. Done the screw on that wheel arch and the other wheel arch, and those were all that was holding this bumper on before. I kind of get why you'd get a bit sloppy at this stage, because you've done your job and you're putting everything back together, and like today it is absolutely roasting and you just want to get the job done. But I'm going to make it a bit more secure and sort out that tray. This black needs to go on top of the blue. See, I've had some good scrapages along there. Here's my pot of spare push rivets. I think these are the right fixing for the job. 3 of those. In we go. Give it a tap. Oh. There we go. Much better. You can see now the grill is nice and fixed. Can't believe I didn't realise that was all it would take. The last thing to do will be the grill, but before I do that I'm going to gas up the system now and see if this works, just because I can have visibility if there are any leaks from there or the one below, and the one I'm particularly concerned about is the switch. This video is sponsored by Ham Toasties. Working all day in the blistering heat between the hours of 10 and 2. You can need lunch. Grab yourself a toasty. It's so simple. All you need is a toasty machine. Chuck some bread on it, bit of ham, shut the lid, turn on the wall, and seconds later, hey presto, there's your ham toasty. Thanks Ham Toasty. We're back again with the aircon top-up bottles. I've got 2, hopefully that'll be enough to gas up the system. So I need to plug in this tool to the aircon valve on the pipe. Just rewatched my M3 video when I did this to remind myself on the procedure. So screw into the bottle first and then plug into the low pressure port, the one down there, and then engine running, fans all on, unwind this screw which you would have previously wound in to pierce a hole in the top of the bottle. Unwinding it releases the air and hopefully all the gas goes in the system and doesn't leak out. Let's give it a go. First positive sign would be that the aircon compressor will work. So at the moment it's not, and I've assumed that's because there's no gas in the system. So that's one bottle done. Just checking now for leaks. Can't feel or hear any, which is good. I think I've done one bottle. Just turn the engine off so I can hear for any leakages. So around the new condenser, sounds okay. See if I undo the bottle and for the gas has actually gone in. There's definitely stuff in there still. Let's try again. The issue I seem to be having is that because the air compressor is not running, the gas isn't just being sucked all around all the pipes. So you probably just have to let it sit for a little while to try and empty out the first bottle and then try with the second one. And fingers crossed there's enough pressure then to get it going. Time check, we're running out of time now. At the moment I'm not even sure if we're going to fix it. Bottle 1 is now empty. Let's try bottle 2. Second bottle there going in. Still nothing from the aircon compressor. It's going to have to go down as a fail. Both bottles now in, but the compressor is still not spinning, so there's just not enough gas. You can see on here that the system takes 475 grams. Each one of these bottles is 168 grams. So even if all of what was in those bottles has gone into the car, it's not quite enough to fill the car up, but I'd hoped it'd be enough just to get the compressor running. So I think next step is I've got to get this professionally refilled, which is annoying because that's expensive. All that's left to do now is put the grill back on, get it back on the ground, check the oil and tidy up. We've still got 27 minutes left on our timer. Let's still try and meet that time. Had a chance to cool down since the 4-hour challenge nearly melted me into a puddle. I'm determined to get this aircon working by myself. I'm really motivated by not going to garages. It's just inconvenient. The plan now is that I've ordered 2 more cans of aircon top up, which across the 4 cans should give me enough to fill up the system. That has cost £80. It would have been a lot more economical just to go straight to a garage and get this topped up, but we are where we are now. I've spent the money, so I might as well try and get it working. I think where I'm going wrong, or partly where I'm going wrong, because the first thing is that so far I haven't put in enough gas to fill up the system, which is potentially why the compressor's not kicking in. But the aircon top-up bottles want the compressor to be running whilst you're putting the gas into the system. So I need to try and manually override the compressor and get it switched on and put the gas in at the same time. The compressor plug is the white one. If I can get that unplugged, you can see there are only 2 wires going into that. Should be as simple as positive and negative, so if I can get a earth to it and a positive on the other one, hopefully we'll hear the magnet of the compressor click into place, and when we run the car the compressor will be spinning around. Give me a bit more access. If I just pull the plug off, then hopefully I can get some wires onto those pins, which I could then hook up to the battery or the power probe. I've got 2 little bits of wire like this with a connection on the ends there that I can just slot onto the pins on the plug for the compressor like that. And then with the power probe, connect the earth to one of the wires, and with the positive I will put some power to it and hopefully we'll hear a click. I'm not hearing a click. That is disappointing. So this is bad news. The next test to do on the compressor is to check its resistance. So I think that there should be continuity in the circuit. So if I test with the multimeter for resistance, I should get 0 or a number low to 0 in terms of ohms and resistance, and my multimeter is saying 1. It would appear that the compressor is shot, which is quite a coincidence that the aircon has always worked really well in this car for 6.5 years that I've owned it, and suddenly the aircon's not working because of both a hole in the condenser, which there definitely was, and also the compressor not working. Anyway, we are now into a new compressor. I shall go and get that ordered. In the meantime, I've got another issue. My subwoofer ain't working. And that makes me sad. The JBL light is on and the power light is on there. I can only conclude then that the speaker is gone. That is a shame. I've had that speaker for a lot of years. I think 2008 when I had this car. I do wish I never sold that RX-7. It was awesome. I had the turbo set up non-sequentially, took the ABS out, which you might think is a bit stupid in RX-7, but I never crashed it. Good times. Just before I go ahead and order myself a new sub, I'm just going to take this one out and check the resistance. The sub is out. Here are where the wires from the amp connect to, and they seemed a little loose. As I pulled the sub out, they were off. I don't know if that's me pulling the sub out or if they're already off. So first thing to do is to get some pliers to tighten these up a bit and then put them back on and check if it works. So I'm doing the resistance tests and I'm getting 4 ohms, which is what you should get if the subwoofer is working. Right now I'm pretty stumped as to why it isn't working. Just been playing with all the connections from the wires from the amp to the back of the sub box to the speaker. No joy. Thought I'd just play with some of the buttons. I literally just switched this bass boost on and off. You can feel it working. You can see. I don't know, maybe the amp's on its way, but it's working now, so another thing I'm just going to have to keep an eye on. Let's screw that back in and see if that aircon compressor is here yet. And here it is. Let's see if we can get the clutch working on this off the car. So we've got a brown wire and a black and white or yellow wire. I think it's just yellow from the aircon die, so the brown should be the earth. So the internet tells me to get my special wires on there. Magic, so we can hear the clutch working on that when we give power to the aircon compressor. You can see that when there's no power, the front of the aircon compressor doesn't spin round, only the belt pulley does, but when we put power to it, it all spins together. So no power, power. For whatever reason, that's not happening on one on the car. We're going to have to replace this, which is annoying because we're going to have to get all that gas that we've just put in extracted. Let's go and replace this on the Astra, get it jacked up again. Definitely not getting anything. In fact, we're getting smoke off the wire there, as if something is shorting out. So definitely think the compressor needs replacing. In theory, changing the aircon compressor is a very simple job. We've got the belt in there that goes around the compressor to remove, and then there are only 3 bolts on the compressor. However, to get to it, we're going to have to take out the air box. We've also got to undo the aircon pipes that go to the compressor, and then it's just a question of how much room is there to get that out. Now, it's not going to come through the top, so it's going to be jack the car up, take the under tray, well, it's not really an under tray, that bit of the tray out, which just goes under the car in that corner, and then hopefully I can remove it from the bottom. Getting the airbox out, as we've done before, we've got 7mm clips there and a TX30 bolt there, obviously this plug as well, which you just get out like that. Take the belt off, I have a longer than average 15mm spanner which goes onto the tensioner there, and then by turning it clockwise it will release the tension so you can get the belt off, which I cannot do whilst holding the camera. You can see there that the belt is now off the aircon compressor pulley. Just wiggle the belt clear of the aircon compressor. There we go. Next step would be to release the aircon pipes. Now the gas that I've already put into the system is still going to be in there. I haven't actually got it professionally removed because these bottles do say environmentally safe, so I'm fine to just release that into the atmosphere. It's just a blow that's 40 quid's worth of these bottles down the drain. And then we can see from the replacement compressor that we've got that we will have a bolt at the top there, which I can see from the engine bay at the top, one from the side and one at the bottom. So let's start removing those. As the top one loosened up, you can't get it all the way out, so that's as far as it goes. We'll just leave that loose, and then for the next one, this end of the compressor, I think it's going to be easier to get that from underneath, so let's now jack up the car. So to get this in a bit of under tray off, it is a T25, I think that will be. We've got a push rivet in there and there, and underneath we've got a T25 and a third T25. There is our aircon compressor. We can now see the bottom bolt quite well. As for a plan to get it out, it's not going to come out between the engine and the subframe there. It might come out through this gap if we remove the horn, for which I can feel a bolt just above this little bracket here. So I think that'll be the plan, but first let's undo the bolts. All the bolts for the aircon compressor loose now. I just want to remove the horn. So that bolt there is 13mm, which I'm going to do next. That should just give us enough room to pull the compressor out. Let's see. Oh. Out with the old, let's not hang about and go, oh no. Straight back in with the new. Good job these aren't my nice jeans. What a donut. Good state of me. Same way back in as how we just came out. Got the new aircon compressor in situ now. The first thing that I've done there, apart from get that bolt and that bolt just started, hold it in place, is to tighten up the aircon pipe connection. Reason for that is whilst the pipes are unconnected, air and moisture can get in the aircon system, which is not good for it. If you've got a receiver dryer in an aircon system, the receiver dryer's job is to absorb all the moisture. So if you've got that exposed to the air, it's going to absorb all the moisture just from the air that we breathe, and quickly it's going to get to a point where it can't absorb any more and perform its purpose. So that's why I've done that first. Next, we'll just tighten up the bolts and we can get the belt back on. That's the belt all back on. Next step, get the horn back on, and then we're ready to try and regas this thing. And this time as we do it, I'm going to engage the compressor so it's pumping the gas around the system as the gas goes in, to make sure it is pulling all the gas from the bottle like the instructions want us to. Just put this back on as well, so then I can drop the car to the floor. Got my wires going into the plug, and the plan is that I'm just going to put live to the wire like that, and you can hear that this compressor is still working on the car. I'm going to plug the top-up bottle into the system with the car running, then I'm going to engage the compressor. Seems like that sucked in the gas, so if I undo this, there shouldn't be too much left in there. Let's do bottle number 2. I'm going to plug it back in and see if there's enough gas in there to make the aircon work again. We are plugged back in. Check the aircon is on. Is the compressor even going round? That's the test, isn't it? And it ain't. I think that means we need to get more gas to put in the system. Yes, I should have just gone and got it regassed at somebody who knows what they're doing. That there is the 5th bottle that I am spending on this car, so it's 100 quid's worth of gas. Let's see if it makes any difference. Still, I have no movement from the aircon compressor. I just can't see that there's not enough gas in there now. I'm reluctant to put a 6th bottle in there. I'm wondering if it's an issue with the pressure switch maybe. I'm going to go away and have a think about this. I'll catch you in a second when I know my next step. My reflecting time is done and I'm going to go back to basics and check the fuses. In trying to get the aircon compressor to work, I've shoved my power probe into a couple of wires and powered them up, and it might be that I've powered the wrong one, which might have blown a fuse. It might be that the old aircon compressor was broken and that's what might have blown a fuse, so we need to check those. There are 2 fuse boxes in the car. One is there, which would be the one that I'll check first by reference to the owner's manual, which gives us a diagram of the fuses, and we can see we've got some air conditioning there, and there are the 2 to check under the bonnet. If those are good, we'll then go to the boot where there are 1 or 2 more. Yes, we've got a blown fuse. Okay, into my box of new fuses. We need a 10 amp fuse. Go in there. Let's see if it works. And it's working. We're not quite there, so look at this. That to me is saying that there's not enough gas in the system, so let's get that 4th bottle in there and hopefully we're done. And that has made no difference. What is going on here? Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and get it regassed properly, which is a shame because it means I've wasted £120 on aircon top-up bottles, but I guess they're called top-up bottles because they're meant for topping up, not for refilling an empty system. We live and learn. It was worth a try. I've had a bit more reflecting time. I've slept on it, and no, I have not yet gone to get the car professionally regassed. What I have done is get myself this pressure gauge so I can see how much pressure is in the system. My thought process now, and the reason why I've purchased that, is that it wasn't that there wasn't enough gas in the system, but there might actually be too much, and the pressure switch probably is working correctly, but if there's too much gas in there, it might be that when the compressor starts whirring round, that builds the pressure of the gas and then cuts the compressor out. It settles down a bit and then it will kick back in, build up the pressure, cut out, etc, etc. So let's see how much gas is in there. Put a bottle on the end just to act as a blocker. So yeah, don't worry, I'm not putting a 5th bottle of gas in. Check this out. See that? That says danger. Okay, that's good. It means we've found something else we can try ourselves. Slightly annoying that I've put 4 bottles of gas in it and probably 3 was too many. So I've wasted at least £40 there, if this works. So now I'm going to release some gas from the system Now remember, these bottles say environmentally safe, so I am just going to release that into the atmosphere. How am I going to do that? Let's take the bottle out and see if the gas comes out. You can see each time I turn the bottle to release some gas and then tighten it up again, the needle's moving down. So let's get it into the blue, probably on the cusp of the yellow. Looking good. Gauge is in the blue and the compressor is going round and round and round. Yes! I think I was a bit premature there. Look at this. Let's release a bit more gas. I did only spend £13 on this gauge, possibly not the most accurate, as just now it was obviously showing in the blue, and now it's back to the yellow. But it's fine, it's giving me an indicator that there's still too much gas in there, which is all I wanted to know really. So let's take a bit more out. It's looking good again. Still trust it, or should I release a bit more gas? I'm going to go with that. So obviously over time you lose a bit of gas anyway, so I want to start from having as much gas in there as I can get away with, so it will last longer. So brilliant, let's put it back together, let's go on a drive and enjoy having aircon for the first time this summer. It's now mid-August, so I've only got about 2-3 weeks of heat to enjoy having aircon, and I've gone the whole summer without it, but there we are, I've got it now, let's drive. Genuinely so good to have some cold air on you back in this car again. First time since last summer. But actually, it's possibly a little too cold. I think I'm going to need this. Much better. Joking aside, the aircon is working and that is awesome. So it seems like a little while ago now we did our 4-hour challenge, which we managed to do the jobs we intended to do, we just didn't get the aircon working at the end of it. So what have we done and learned in this video? We have learned how to replace the front aircon radiator. We have fixed the grille in the front bumper, which was loose, which wasn't a big job, but it still needed doing. We have done an oil change. We have then realised that the aircon compressor wasn't working and have learned how to test that. We then replaced the aircon compressor. And from that point, I think it's the most interesting thing that we've learned, that actually you can get your aircon regassed without going to a professional to get it regassed for you. And those bottles, which are £20 each, if you get 2 for 40, otherwise sometimes they're sort of 30-ish pounds, you only need 1 or 2. So potentially you need 1, I don't know, because I was too far gone by the time I realised there was too much gas in it. But if it's 1, that's 20 quid. So you're saving yourself about 30 quid compared to the £50 you'd spend to get it regassed. even if it's £40 for the convenience of not having to take your car somewhere, for me, that is worthwhile doing. That probably won't be the last time you see me trying to fix aircon with one of those bottles. Anyway, well, it should have been a much shorter video, but wasn't because the aircon didn't work after doing the radiator. We are now at the end. If you've made it to the end, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Whilst I've got the air filter box disconnected, check out this noise. How cool. Probably thinking, why don't I just take the sub out? It's a bit retro, but I have boy racer in my blood. Just check this out.
Ain't no shit, ain't no way to label this. Memphis where I come from, orange round veteran, but I represent never live in poverty.